Hey guys, let's talk about basic router configuration. Alright, again, when you first start up the router and you first get into it, you're in user mode. And the prompt looks like this, the name router and then the greater than sign. So anytime you see the greater than sign, you're in user mode. And if I hit question mark, those are the commands you can run from user mode. There's not a whole lot you can actually do. So we're going to go to enable mode. Now again, I'm using a very old iOS and I'm on a 1721 that they haven't made for 10 years. So you may see some differences in your router, obviously. So in order to go to the next mode, we type in enable, hit enter, and now this one's already has a password on there. I'm going to put that in, and now I'm in the second level, what they also refer to as privilege mode. Although some people refer to it as enable mode because you use the word enable to get in there. Alright, and again, the prompt looks like a number sign. So router, number sign, or whatever the name of the router is with a number sign. So again, on the CCNA, make sure that you're good with that greater than sign and the number sign, because they will ask you, they'll show you a picture of the prompt and say, what mode is this router in? Alright, you can do a lot more commands from here. You can do your copy commands and your show commands typically. So I can do show run, show this, show that. Now, first show command I want to go over is the show version command, because the show version command will show you a lot of information about your router. So show ver, or you can abbreviate it less with sh ver. Now, when this pops up, I'll make this a little bigger. Alright, so first it's showing you the version of the software you're running. So right now I'm running version 12.36a. And then it tells me the name. This is the name in Flash of the file that I loaded the iOS from. So if I wanted to make a copy of this iOS, I'd go to the flash card, and this is the file that I'd want to copy. And Cisco typically names it like this, the name or the series of the router. So Cisco 1700 series. And then IP base or telephony or advanced routing or security, something like that. And then the version number 12.3-6A, and then it's always a bin because it's a binary file. Now after that, you've got your memory settings. So right here it shows you how many bytes of memory you have, but it doesn't give you the total memory in the router. You have to add these two numbers, because the first one, this is how much memory is free, this is how much memory is used. So if you add those together, you get your total memory in the router. Now that's the RAM, and that's where the running configuration is stored. And if I hit more, get the rest. Alright, so Nvram, this one has 32 kilobytes of non-volatile RAM, and in there, that's where my startup configuration is stored. And then I have a flash card, and that's where my iOS is stored. So remember, you have three types of memory inside your router. You have flash, which holds the iOS. You have NVRAM, which holds the startup configuration. And then you have the regular RAM that holds your running configuration. Alright, and then you have this configuration register. Remember, we use that for password reset. 2142 skips the startup file. 2102 is normal. Now this one will load. This one was set at 2142, but I already put the command to change it, so it'll be 2102 at the next reload. So, show version shows you a lot of information: what version of the iOS you're running, all your different memories, what the name of the file is, and what your configuration register is set at. So make sure that you can get all that information, you know where to look for it. Alright, another command when you first get into a router, if you want to see what interfaces it has, is show IP interface brief. And I hate when I misspell that. Show IP interface brief gives you a very small breakdown, or like a summary of what interfaces are on the router. So this router, again, because it's old, it only has one fast Ethernet port, then it has two serial ports. The fast Ethernet port already has an IP address assigned to it. Then you get status and protocol. Now, remember, the status field only tells you one thing: has no shutdown been run? If the status says administratively down, that means somebody has not put in the command no shutdown. If it says anything else, whether it says up or down, it means that they did run the no shutdown command. Now, the protocol field, this one over here, this one tells you, do I see something on the other end? A fast Ethernet interface, when you do the no shutdown command, comes up automatically whether it sees something on the other end or not. But a serial interface will not come up unless it sees something else. So let me show you an example of this. So now I want to go to the third level of the router, config T. So we call this global mode. So now I'm in the third level, and the third level says config number sign. And then after that you can go into sub-interface modes. So I could go to interface fast Ethernet 0, and it's FA. So now you see the prompt changes to configuration interface. So now I'm 4 levels deep. I went from user mode to privilege mode to global mode to sub-interface mode. Now from here I can do no shutdown, and then I can hit Control Z, and now I can do my show IP interface brief, if I spell that right. And now you see the status is up, but the protocol is down. So it doesn't see anything on the other end, but the status comes up. If I go to a serial connection and I assign it an IP address and I do a no shutdown, its status will say down. So let me show you that one real quick. So again, we want to go back into global mode. From there we want to go into the serial 0. So interface serial 0. Now I'm going to assign an IP address, so it's just IP address, and we're going to do 10.1.1.1, and we'll do 255.0, and now I'm going to do no shutdown, and then I'm going to go back, Control Z, take me all the way out to privilege mode, and again if I do when I'm trying to fix this, you guys can actually see the prompt show IP interface brief. Again, you can hit the up arrow to show you the last command you ran. So here's fast Ethernet, here's 001. They both have IP addresses. They have both been used with the no shutdown command, and then the protocol is down. So again, status, whether it's up or down, only shows you if the no shutdown command has been run. If it says administratively down, nobody has run the no shutdown command, or you can say the shutdown command is on it. If it says up or down, it means somebody did run the no shutdown command. And again, protocol just tells you, do I see something on the other end? Obviously this router is over here, is sitting here at my desk, it's not connected to anything, so the protocol is never going to come up. Alright, you can do other show commands, like I can show the run, and I can actually take a look at the configuration that's in here. And I can go through all this different stuff. So this one has no service password encryption. There is a enable secret password on here, and this is the encrypted, what the encrypted password looks like. And there's my interface information. This one already has EIGRP on it, which is a routing protocol, and it does not look like any of the lines are configured. So remember, I can do show run, I can do show start, and I can kind of compare the two and see what the differences are if I have made some changes, and I can do things like that. I can also do copy, and I can do copy run start or copy start run. Remember, whenever you do the copy command, it's always copy from to. So I make changes in the running. So after I'm all done, if I want to save my work, I want to do copy run start. Copy run start. And that'll copy the running configuration to the start configuration. Or I can type the whole thing, copy running dash configuration space startup dash configuration, but you don't want to ever do that, so you want to abbreviate. So hit that. It'll say, do you want to name it the startup configuration? Obviously I do, so hit enter again, and boom. It'll save your file. Remember, everything you do happens in the running configuration. If you don't do a copy run start when you're done, you have not saved anything, and if you power cycle the router, you'll lose your changes. Especially in labs, I see a lot of students will sit there for an hour and a half on a lab, and then the lab will tell them to power cycle their router, and they don't save their stuff, and they lose all their stuff. So don't be that guy. Alright, so again, privilege mode with the number sign, we typically run our starts, or I'm sorry, our copies and our show commands. Now, then you can go again, you go to the third level, config T, what we call global mode. Now, from global mode, you can also do your show commands. So, just give an example. So, if I do show run, it doesn't work. But if I do show run, put the word do in front of it, then it works. So make sure you're aware of that. If you don't want to go back all the way and you're in global mode, you can do show this or do show that, and it'll work. Alright, let's name our router. Remember, any command that's going to affect the entire router, we run from global mode. So, I'm in global mode now. I'm going to type in host name and then whatever I'm going to name the router. So in my case, I'm going to name it JMac router. And now you obviously can see my prompt has changed. It's now called JMac router. Alright, anytime you want to get rid of a command or you want to change something, you have to put the word no in front of it. So in this one, he's got an enable secret password called Cisco. So I'm going to do no enable secret Cisco, and now I have no password, no enable secret password. So just to confirm that, I'm going to hit Control Z and go back to privilege mode, and I'm going to do a show run. And now you don't see that encrypted password that was showing up. Now, when it says more, you can hit the enter key and get one extra line at a time. Or you can hit the space bar and get a whole bunch of information. So it's up to you. If you're trying to get through something really fast, you can just hit space bar. If you just want to see one line at a time because you're looking for something specific, hit enter. If you don't want to see this stuff anymore because you're done or you already found what you need, hit Control Z and that'll break that and then put you right back at the prompt. Now, under some of the older iOS's, there was an old password that was just called the enable password, and the encryption was very weak, and it showed up in your configuration file. So let me show you that. I'm going to go back to configuration mode, or global mode, and I'm going to do enable password Cisco, and hit enter. Then I'm going to Control Z, go back to privilege mode, and show run. And now you can see the enable password is Cisco. So in all your files and stuff, or your configuration files, it does not hide the password. So if you ever print these out, and a lot of us IT guys do, especially if it's a bigger router configuration, we either A, save them, B, go through it line by line on a piece of paper on a desk where it's easier to see it, because typically our routers are in some weird crazy place, and it's always dark and there's spiders crawling all over the walls. But so you don't ever want to use that command. So enable password bad, never use it. Alright, so we're going to go back to global mode, and what you want to use is enable, actually, well, first let's get rid of the one that we set, no enable password Cisco, and now we're going to do enable secret Cisco. So remember, whatever follows the word secret, that's going to be your password. So our password is going to be Cisco, so enable secret Cisco, and again now I'm just going to do show run, because that way I don't change my mode. And again, here's the enable secret password, bloop, all nice and, I'm sorry, right here, all nice and hashed. So that if somebody sees my file, they're not going to be able to see what the password is. So that's the one you want to use. And again, that just sets the password so that when somebody types in enable to get into privilege mode, that's the dialog that'll come up. Okay, now we're still in privilege mode, I'm sorry, global mode. Now, we can also, in class, we're going to be plugging into the console port. And you want to make there's settings that that you can put on the console port. And there's also an auxiliary port, and there's telnet, and all of these are security issues, or security vulnerabilities. So you want to make sure that you protect those. So I'm going to show you how to get into the console port and change some settings. So from global mode, you're going to type in line console 0. Remember, Cisco always names the first of anything 0. So there's only one console port, so that console port has to be 0. Anytime you're coming into the router to do configuration, you come in on a line. So if you telnet in, you're telnetting in, there's a line for that. If you plug the line into the console port, it's called a line. So, but if you're moving data through the router and the router's making a decision deciding which port to send it on, that's called an interface. So that's where it gets weird. So what I tell people in class is, if it's something that you're issuing commands through, it's considered a line. If it's something that you move data across, it's called an interface. So we're going to go to line console 0, and then you can see the prompt changes. Now I'm in a sub mode and I'm in the console. So first one you want to do is exec timeout. Now you can use the tab key to finish commands for you. So in this case, there's exec, I hit tab and nothing happens. There you go. So exec-t, and then it works for me. So get used to using that tab command to fill things for you. So now the exec timeout after that, you got to put in two numbers. The first one is the minutes, and then the seconds until the router will lock itself out. So in other words, if I come here to the router and I start working on some stuff, and then I decide to go eat lunch, and I walk away without backing out all the way to user mode, the router will wait this amount of time, and he'll back out himself. So typically you do 15 or 30. So in this case I'm just going to do 30. So 30 minutes, 0 seconds. If I don't touch the router again for 30 minutes, the router will take itself all the way back to user mode. And that way if somebody walks up to the router and starts trying to do something, they have to put the password in. So exec timeout, when do I want it to time out and go back to user mode if I don't put in any commands? Now, the next one we're going to do is logging synchronous. L-O-G-G tab S tab. Now, what logging synchronous does is, let me see if I can find an example. When you're typing and these configuration messages from the system pop up, like this one did. And then I just did, I was typing in show run, so I typed in show, and then this message popped up, and then my word run popped up over here on the end. So those system messages will not stop your commands, but when you're doing really big commands, like when you're doing the WAN technologies class and you're configuring frame relay and stuff, you don't want this to interfere with your stuff. So logging synchronous, when you're in the console, it will, if a message like this pops up, it moves everything that you're typing into the bottom line, so it still all shows up intact, which is nice. It doesn't break up your commands like this one did. So my show was there, my run was there. So logging synchronous, hit enter, and you're all set. Now the next thing you want to do is set a password on this so that somebody has to use their password to get in. So in this case it's just password, and again we're still going to do Cisco, so password Cisco. So putting on a password isn't enough, you also have to enable the password, or I say, hey, I want to use the password now that I set it. So now you just type in login and you're all set. So for all the lines, those are the same four commands: exec timeout, logging synchronous, password Cisco, and then login. So from here I can exit. Now here's where it gets weird. The next line we're going to do line VTY 0 space 4, because years ago the telnet programs were called virtual terminals. And Cisco, like their typical router, has 5 virtual lines, or you can telnet into the router 5 different times. And that way you can kind of jump around, have somebody telnet with it, but you get the idea. So if you want to set some variables on all 5 telnet lines, it's line VTY04. In other words, line virtual terminal 0 through 4. And that'll hit all 5 lines, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Enter. And then it's the exact same 4 commands. So I'm going to hit the up arrow. And if I hit the up arrow 6 times, it takes me right back to exec timeout. I can hit enter. Then I can do the up arrow 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do logging synchronous. Hit the up arrow 6 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Password Cisco, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when you're doing your lines, it's a lot easier to do the first one and then do the second one just using the up arrow, because that'll repeat previous commands. So now let me show you what that does. If I exit, actually let's not, we're just going to hit Control Z and then exit. Now it says return to get started. When I hit enter here, I'm making my first connection on the console port. So here's where that line console 0 password comes into play. Now notice when I typed in the password, nothing showed up. In class, I get this all the time. This password prompt comes up, and so I start typing. Nothing happens. Everyone's like, "Oh, my keyboard's not working." It's not that your keyboard's not working. It's just it doesn't show you the characters, and that way, if somebody's looking over your shoulder, they don't know how big your password is. All right. So again, I always start out in user mode. Then I need to type in enable, and that'll take me to privilege mode. But again, the enable secret is set, so there's where I turn that in, and now I'm back into privilege mode. Now, something else that's very important on your equipment is to set the correct time. Now, normally we set this up so that all of your devices are pulling their time from one location, and that way all the devices are on the exact same time, and that way when something happens on your network and you're going through the logs of different pieces of equipment and it shows you something happened, you know exactly when it happened. It's not like it's 3 minutes off. You know, the router is 3 minutes fast than the switch, so when I look at stuff I got to figure that out. So you want to know exactly when things happen and where it happened first, and that way you can diagnose or troubleshoot. But in this case, we're going to talk about setting the clock manually. So anytime you don't know what the command is to do something, you can always do the question mark. So I know I want to set the clock, so it's going to be clock set as the command, but I don't know what goes next. So I'm going to type in CL and question mark, and it tells me I can either type in clock or clear. So I'm going to do clock space what comes next, question mark. So then it tells me the only thing you can do next is set, and that'll set the time and date. So I'm going to type in set space question mark. Now it wants the time. In this case it's 5 o'clock, so this is military time. So this is 1700. So 17 26, and then they want the seconds. I always just put in 30 for the seconds. Space, question mark. Now, they want the day and the month, so this is the 1st of September, so I'm going to do 1 SEPT, space, question mark. Then it wants the year. This is 2013. Got a little ahead of myself there. Space, question mark. Now, if it says CR, it means the command is done. Hit enter. I hit enter, and there it goes. So clock set, hour, minutes, seconds, space the date, space the month, space the year, and that will set the clock. So don't forget, if you ever don't know a command, question mark. If you don't know how to spell the command, like synchronous, just use the tab command. If you can't talk, drink more alcohol. Alright, one of the last things I want to show you is how to put some kind of message or banner across the screen when somebody logs in. So we're going to go into global mode, and from global mode you're going to type in banner space MOTD, and that stands for banner message of the day. And then you're going to do a space. Now you need to pick some kind of character that's referred to as the delimiting character, and this character cannot show up in your message. So I'm going to use the question mark. Well, apparently I didn't like that. Yeah, don't forget the question mark is used for the question, like if you don't know what comes next. So that's why it gave me that. So you can't use the question mark, don't be like me. So I'm going to use quotation marks, and then from there you can type in a message. So this is going to be, you know, this router is oop, fat fingered it. Blah, and then boom, and hit enter. So basically, it's banner, message of the day, and then some kind of special character that you type in that's not in your message, then your message, and then that character again. So boom, takes it. Now that one was too long, so you kind of get to see the command. But again, it's banner, message of the day, your delimiting character, space your message, space your delimiting character again. So remember, you cannot use that delimiting character in your message because the whatever character you use after MOTD, Cisco says I'm going to start it after that character, and if I see that character again, that signals me to end your message. So make sure whatever it is, whatever character you pick, starts at the beginning of your message and at the end, and is not inside your message. Now, so what did that do? Well, if I exit out and get back here, remember, so here's where when you first get in the router, this router's private property, don't touch it or I'll kill you, blah blah. But that's where that message pops up, and that's really there in case somebody accidentally dials into your router or something like that, or they plug into the wrong router, and it happens. You know, especially in mini malls where there's like 8 different companies that are all in there. There's 8 different routers in the wiring closet, and you're trying to figure out which one you're supposed to be getting into. This way, it'll tell you, you know, whose is whose, and then that way you know you're in the wrong one. So don't go any further. So again, I put in my password if I spell that right, and then if I want to go to the next mode, I type in enable, type in that password. Now, you're almost done, but now we have to save our configuration to make sure it still works. So I want to do a copy, run, start, because I want to copy everything that I just did in running and move it over to the start. Remember, everything that you do on the router happens in the running configuration, and the running configuration is stored in the RAM. You have to save it to the startup configuration in the non-volatile RAM, otherwise when you restart the router you'll lose your changes. So copy, run, start, then hit enter again to confirm, and boom, you're all set. So now I can reboot the router, all my stuff is there, and you now have a basic configuration. The only thing you have left to do is typically put the IP addresses on your interfaces, slap a routing protocol on here, and then maybe whatever security stuff you want to do. Oh, one more password, or one more thing as long as I brought up security. So if I go back to global mode, there are other passwords that are stored inside your router. And again, I know Cisco's encryption inside here is not that strong, and it can be broken, by a determined person, but it's still, you still want to go through these steps and put this kind of security on your router. So we're going to do service password encryption. So service password encryption from global mode. So it's service password dash encryption, hit enter. Now what that'll do is, do you remember how I showed you how enable password Cisco showed up, but enable secret Cisco showed up encrypted? Service password encryption will encrypt all the other passwords in the running configuration file, and that way if somebody gains access to one of your printouts, they won't see any of your passwords anywhere. So what does this look like? Let me go back to privilege mode. Let me make sure I save my change and keep waiting and wait a little longer, and there it is. Okay, so now if I do show run, so here's my encrypted password for my enable secret, which is what I wanted, and then if I space, notice it does not show you the password that you did for the line console, and it doesn't show you your password for telnet. That's what that service password encryption does. So it will encrypt everything else so that they don't show up in your running configuration. Again, in class, if you want to skip that, you just for your stuff so you can remember whatever password you set. But as long as you just use Cisco in the class, make sure encrypt this stuff. You need to get in the habit of building this security in there, and that way you'll always use it. Alright, so we're all set now. Hit Control Z to break that command. I've saved everything. I can restart the router and power cycle it. If you ever need to power cycle the router, but it's not like you don't want to run all the way back to the classroom and reboot it, just type in reload and then hit enter to confirm, and your router will reboot. So my router will reboot. It'll still have all my configuration file, and I'm all set. Alright, so I hope that helps with your basic configuration. And again, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them in class.